So hopefully some of you have probably already received communications from Aoife or Kate, but if there's any questions around anything to do with your digital journey and your involvement in the programme, do reach out. It's always Aoife at Digital Schools Awards, Kate at Digital Schools Awards, or myself, Anna at Digital Schools Awards, and we'd be delighted to help you. So before I sort of open up the slides, I'm just really delighted to have two excellent school leaders on today's webinar presenting for us. And first of all, I'd like to introduce Terence O'Brien. So Terence, many of you in Ireland, I'm sure, are familiar with Terence. He is a little bit of a legend. And we were lucky enough to work with Terence last year as part of our piloting of the Digital Schools Academy. Terence comes from Banagher College, and he's also been working in the LOETB. So we're really privileged to have Terence on today. He's going to give you some insight in how they have, I suppose, come full cycle, starting with Selfie, working on their digital action plans. And obviously at this point, Banagher College is an awarded digital school, and there's some very exciting developments this year, which I hope Terence will be able to tell us about. In addition then to Terence, we're going to hear from Gulev Karayel, and Gulev comes from London in England, and Gulev is the Digital Technologies Coordinator in the Connect Education Trust, and they're a multi-academy trust based out of London, and Gulev supports 7 to 8 primary schools as part of that trust. And Gulev is our first digital school. Gulev sort of has supported the first digital schools to be awarded in England, and I think she's going to bring some really interesting insights into how she has managed the process on behalf of all of their schools, and lots of learnings that have come out of that. So to kick off then, I will hand over to you, Terence, if you want to sort of take us through. So what we'll do is I've asked Terence and Gulev to spend about 15 minutes each, and then we can take any questions on the chat or take questions at the end as well. So if you do have anything we can help you with, just throw it into the chat. We will answer the questions there, or we'll take some questions afterwards. And I know, Terence, you have to leave, I think, pretty much after your piece, so we might take any questions before we hand over to Gulev.
Sure, thanks, Anna. And look, apologies about that. I just have to facilitate a meeting here in my own school in Banagher College. So look, I'm just going to share a presentation there, and look, I suppose 15 minutes probably doesn't capture the whole full process, but it might give you just some idea of what our experience was like last year to go through the Digital Schools Awards. So I'll just see if I can pick up the window I'm looking for there, which is give me 1 second. Hopefully you can see that okay.
Yep, that looks good.
Yes.
Okay, so I suppose it's a good catchphrase that I'd like to say come up with ourselves: from audit to action, but we borrowed it from elsewhere, but it probably captures pretty well some of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about today. So look, just a quick introduction about myself. My name is Terence O'Brien, and among other things, I'm a teacher of English and history in a school called Banagher College, which is here on the banks of the Shannon in the Midlands of Ireland. It's a co-ed school, you know, mid-size for Ireland, of about 580 students. And I also, I won't say quite say moonlight, but I also work as well with LOETB, which is a bit like a trust, I suppose, a section of schools here in the middle of Ireland across 2 counties, Laois and Offaly, and I'm their digital technology coordinator for 9 secondary schools. So I do that for a part of the week as well. So I suppose it gives me a particular set of perspectives, because I'm very much a teacher on the ground. I'm a digital coordinator in my own school, and then I work with the digital coordinators in the management of other schools as well to try, you know, I suppose, enhance aspects of school life through the use of digital technology. Look, a quick one, I suppose, just to plug it really as much as anything, because it was a very validating and very rewarding process for us. you know, why would you get involved? I don't know how far people are along that are on the call, but what did we get out of it, I suppose it's fair to say. We got great recognition for staff. I mean, there's a huge amount of great work goes on in schools, and often it doesn't get validation because often it's on to the next job and so on. And those of you who work in schools are I'm sure, are acutely aware of the level of demand. So this was a really nice way to sort of improve school, improve things for teachers, improve things for students, improve things for the community, and I suppose get that kind of recognition for it as well. So it was really, really nice. I think digital momentum was very, very important for us. We had, as a school here in Banagher, felt that we had made significant kind of progress during COVID. And, you know, once we got out of that and remote teaching and so on, there was that kind of sense that people, you know, in some ways would like to sort of rest on their laurels a little bit, or maybe even, you know, leave the laptop aside for a while despite all the gains. But it gave us a kind of momentum to build on the back of the gains that were made during COVID, and to kind of push things on and really use technology to enhance all aspects of school life. And from our point of view here in Ireland as well, it all fitted really well with our digital learning plan, which is required by the Department of Education as well. So look, just some of the things that I'll just be talking about in the next couple of minutes. Doing the selfie itself, I'm going to start off with that and right through to kind of the end process. So the selfie itself, just look, the do's and don'ts around it, we found, and look, everyone has a different perspective, but we did it at a staff meeting. I think that's really good, rather than sending out a link, you know, once you have the selfie set up, because I think you don't necessarily capture everybody. So by allocating specific time, maybe at a meeting, you are that much more likely to bring in, you know, the wider kind of cohort and a really representative kind of group of staff on the staff side of things. And again, in terms of the students, what we did was we tried to pick a particular class, a particular subject that they all had, and use that as the subject where they all sat down and we were given the time to do the survey at that point. I know other schools, you know, the teacher would come on the intercom, or the principal would come on the intercom, and they do a kind of drop everything in survey. But I think that's a really, really important one to get right, because particularly you do have that kind of sense. You want to start off with really reliable data, and I think that's an important kind of starting point for your self-analysis, etc. So sorry, let's do that 1 second, I think. Sorry, Jared, hope you got me okay. So things to watch out for: matches on that day, school events, reluctant surveyors. You know, it's a really common kind of phenomenon. People, you know, and often it's the tech phobes as well who you're trying to capture, who with emailed around to them will never get around to filling it out, and you end up with kind of false data. And hasty completions. I think there's a sense of survey overload after COVID as well. So you often get people who just, you know, will if they have to do it in the 5 minutes here between classes, will just fire off answers very quickly. And again, you'll end up with that bad data. And, you know, that's the fundamental that you're building your whole year's plan on and your actions on. So you want good, strong data to start off. So there's some of the things to watch out for. In terms of analysis, again, as I mentioned, make sure that you have good quality data, that you really put some thought into doing the survey properly. I think different perspectives is really important when you're looking at the data. The great thing about Selfie is it's really well designed, it's really easy to use, and it gives you immediately this kind of, you know, really good headline data that jumps out straight away, but it's worth doing a bit of a dive into it and looking, I suppose, lifting it up a little bit and seeing what else is in there. And it's kind of, you know, you'd be amazed what else you'll unearth when you really dig into the data that's produced. And I think that something that's really important as well is to get different people to look at it. Get the teacher who's not into tech to look at it, get the management to look at it, get the students to look at it, and I'll talk about that in a minute as well. And I think once you've done your analysis with as many people as possible feeding back into it, really, really good to communicate all that back to staff. You know, what are the headline things that came out of this? And what does it show about us? And things to look out for as well, you know, in the data, there's an example of the headline figures that come back is even look out for, you know, discrepancies between the school leaders who did the survey the teachers who did the survey, and the students. You know, if there's big gaps under particular headings in that data, then maybe there's an issue there that maybe the management are a little bit out of touch. You know, a classic example is, you know, the management say infrastructure and equipment is all great. We got new laptops, we upgraded the Wi-Fi, but look, a teacher in a classroom on a Monday morning who can't get connected to Wi-Fi, who can't get kids log into the new laptops, might see things very differently, as might the students. So there's often something in that as well, if there's big discrepancies between how the management, the teachers and the students see particular aspects of the school. And there might be actions there around communication for your action plan as well. So look, there's, in terms of communication, there is an infographic. Look, I'm a big Canva fan, and I just took some of the headline figures and put it into an infographic and distributed to staff at a staff meeting, give them time to look over and get some feedback on it. So that's not for everybody, but certainly at your staff meeting, find a slot to communicate the headline bits and try to get some feedback from staff around that. In terms of action planning, what did we find useful once you have that data and you want to come up with, you know,
the garage. He's on holidays tomorrow for 10 days. So
you know, in terms of coming up with, you know, actions, the Academy website, very, very useful, because you're seeing other schools and what they did and what worked in their environment. We here we're a school that focuses on Microsoft 365. Some would be Google schools. It was very useful to see other Microsoft schools and sort of things that they might have done with OneNote or Teams or Office 365 that we could adopt for our own school. I think all teachers and digital leaders are always most impressed by hearing from other teachers and leaders about stuff that worked on the ground with them. So that was very useful. And in that vein, we had some really good mentor schools. We had one in Scotland, a New Battle, and we had down at Castle Troy in Limerick here, and they were really, really great in terms of giving us some real practical advice about actions that we could implement and things that work for them, things that didn't work for them as well, pitfalls to avoid. So look, I would really advise making the best of that side of things. Talk to your mentor schools, and you know, they've been through the process, and really pay attention to the pros and cons from their point of view. And again, the actions that work for them. Peer collaboration, look, we're very, very lucky. We have a community of practice across our 9 LOETB schools, and we met fairly regularly around this process. And people like Anna were great and came in and talked to us as well. But that was really good, because we were able to think about, you know, what are the issues in our schools? What's the data showing in your schools? Often there was a lot of commonage, and therefore we could kind of think about common actions as well that we could implement. So look, if you have that facility to talk to the school down the road, or you're part of an academy or a system, then really, if you can tap into that, I would advise it. I think good solid advice around making sure those actions are meaningful and they bring about meaningful change. Look, don't overestimate the, you know, often at the start of the year we're all full of good intentions and we can imagine ourselves doing 50 million different things, but I think the key is small, manageable and measurable goals. We know that from kind of any kind of planning as well. That's really important. So, you know, don't aim too high, aim high, but don't aim too high, and make sure, you know, that what you're planning to do is achievable. And then I think what we found useful was, you know, you have this plan for the year, but sometimes it's good to think, well, what could we get done this week, or what could we get done this month, or what could we get done this term? And again, I had a really good team as well when we met regularly, and that's what we learned. We learned to look at it that way, you know, and what are the steps we can make towards the wider goals. And then a big thing is recording and reporting on their actions. I think that's something that's often neglected, because teachers are so busy. We're so busy doing stuff that we often don't find time to promote it or record it. So that was a really important kind of process. Again, you'd be very familiar with the idea of SMART objectives. You know, make sure that your action that you're putting in place is very specific. Make sure you have some way of measuring it. It's attributable. You know, who's responsible, who's going to do it. Is it realistic? Can you get it done? And what's the time frame? So I think that kind of thing is important. There's just an example that we used for Canva training for students. Student voice, really, really important. We're very, very lucky. I think that might let that play if it is. Maybe it's not playing through there. But we were very lucky as part of the 9 schools in LOETB that we had a student-centered event called a hackathon here in Portlaoise in the Midlands. And we brought together as many of the schools as we could and their students, and we let the students look at the selfie results, see what came out of it, and let them see what actions they came up with. and then they presented them to the wider group at the end of the day. So if you have, look, that isn't not possible for everybody, but you have that ability or you have good relations with other schools, you could even do it in your own school, bringing students together, giving them a goal of look at that data, think what actions you'd like to bring to kind of improve those kind of scores and present it to the wider group maybe later in the day or whatever. And that was a huge success. And we tied in with some of the selfie founders and designers in Spain, in Seville, in Spain as well. So that was a really positive part of it. But if you can recreate that in any way, even in your own school, let the students kind of drive it on and see what they see out of that and see what actions they come up with, and really put that student voice at the centre of things. And it meant as well that they were really engaged and energized by the process as well, and very, very involved, and then got that sense of satisfaction of achieving the award in the end as well. So just in terms of reporting, we went with a simple model for any of the actions that we were doing, with quick description of the action, a quick photo or video. So it's just something on the day, a photo of it, or sometimes a quick survey, maybe 3 questions, Microsoft form questions, something very simple that, again, to make it achievable. And then some student-teacher reflection at the end, some maybe, again, quick video clip from the teacher's perspective. How effective was this action? What were the pros and cons? What were the ups and downs? And from the student point of view, what did they get out of it? And again, the what went well and even better if side of it as well. And then just putting that together. So I don't know if you can see that. So I put together a template again. As you can see, I'm a bit of a Canada fan, but I put together a template myself to start the year, which I shared with all my colleagues. So a lot of them were in charge of particular actions, and I put a template together with them, which then they adopted with the branding. So they would just change the name. You can see coding workshops we did. The heading it went under selfie. So in this case, it was student digital competencies. A description of it. Yeah, so let's see if we can put that on. And then the next page, just a wider description of what was involved. And then we might see that student talking. I myself did coding workshops, and I just gave a little bit of feedback on that. And then quick survey. Now look, that looks ambitious. We probably didn't get that done for all of them. We did for a good few of them. And once we had the template and we got used to doing it around a lot of the actions, it wasn't too bad. And it meant when it went to submitting the award, and putting our submission together for the award, that we had a lot of that stuff ready to go, which was great. And then what we did was overall was, we might get out of this now, unfortunately. What we had overall was a OneDrive folder then, where we put links to these kind of canvas in then as well. And I'll just show you that very, very quickly, and then we'll be finished up then really. So then, yeah, we OneDrive folder, and we had a different subfolder for each of the selfie categories. And any action that we did in each of those categories, we put the link to the Canva folder in there. And it meant, again, that the submission in the end was very, very easy to put in. And again, in terms of success, very, very important. Sorry, I didn't realize that was going to live play there, but you're getting a little bit of video, I hope, there from the ceremony itself. And really, really good to celebrate the achievements of the school and bring everybody on board, and students and everybody involved, and really rewarding, a really satisfying day. And then that gave us great momentum going forward as well. And we're in a new cycle that some of you might be familiar with, SSE, school self-evaluation, and it means that we're in a new cycle of school improvement plans. And the Digital Schools Awards, the process of that fits very, very neatly into SSE, which is a big thing. That's what my next meeting is about this evening. And so we already have momentum from Digital Schools Awards that then sort of folds into the SSE process going forward. So it's worked really, really well. The two married together really, really well. So that was a really nice fit as well, that all our 9 schools across the LOETB were very happy about, because it's not only getting this award, which everybody is delighted about, but also it's meeting the expectations of the Department of Education as well in terms of improving in the digital space. So look, sorry, I might come a little bit over there, and I'll just stop sharing there if I can. That's okay.
That's excellent, Terence. I don't know if there's any questions. If there is any questions, if you just want to put a hand up. As I said at the beginning, Terence does have to leave a bit early, so we'd be delighted, or Terence would be delighted, I'm sure, to take any questions now. Or Terence, if any school would like to get in touch with you, if there was something there that really struck them, maybe some ideas, would you be happy enough that if they could reach out to you?
Of course, it's no problem, and I've definitely spoken to people from different organisations and fellow ETBs as well about our experience from the ETB side of it, I suppose, from the the leadership side there, and from the being on the ground as well. So I'm sorry it's a bit of a whistle stop tour, but look, of course, more than happy to help people any way I can.
And Cornelius, I think there has a question. I don't know if we can make him unmute, but do you want to ask a question there, Cornelius?
Yeah, can I just clarify, once you had your survey findings and you needed to narrow them down in terms of what you were going to do, so it was the students had a discussion and the teachers have a discussion, and then you listed out what you were going to focus on. Sorry, I think I might have missed something there.
Yeah, so I suppose as I was saying, to come at it from different angles was we found really beneficial. So, you have three groups, I suppose, feeding into the data in the first place. You have students, you have teachers, and you have management. So I suppose it naturally makes sense to get their feedback as well. And in the end of it all, then I suppose you had different perspectives, but you had a good bit of overlap as well. And I suppose that's your starting point in terms of your actions, is that overlap period between kind of three groups as to how you might move forward. And then, students took on particular roles. I suppose one of the things, for example, was that we appointed student digital leaders in each of the classes. So we appointed a tech team, which is an offshoot of our kind of student counselling and TY level. So even some of the actions themselves came out of the, the student involvement, if that makes sense.
Okay. Was it you on your own, or was there a group of you that just decided on the priorities? Yeah,
no. So we had a group. I was looking here. We had a group of about 10 teachers here, and obviously, look, you need somebody to drive it on, and you need leadership, obviously, and teachers are very, very busy. But yeah, no, we had about 10 teachers, and in terms of the actions themselves, they took on actions that were often in their own subject area or their own area of interest as well, and they took responsibility because it's too much for one person, really. So they were happy to kind of, once we had our menu of actions that we wanted to push forward into different areas, then they kind of looked at that and said, look, Terence, I might take this on, or I might take the coding workshops or wherever it might be on, and that way, it gave them ownership of it, and often it was an area that they might have had an interest in as well.
Well, thank you so much, Terence. I know you're dashing. You've been a fabulous example, a case study school, and I know that Banagher College and in Bishop ETB, you have some really exciting developments happening this year. So I'm sure we'll be hearing all about that in the next couple of weeks. So thank you so much, Terence, for your time. And we'll share, Terence, the slides after the meeting. And obviously, Terence has I think I've offered your assistance if anybody did want to reach out, but thank you, Terence.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Thanks. Well, I'll quickly hand over now to Gulev, and hopefully you can stay with us for 15 minutes. For those who weren't here just at the beginning, Gulev is from the Connect Education Trust in London, and Gulev manages the digital technology for 7 to 8 schools, primary schools in and around London. So I'll hand over to you, Gulev, and maybe you can do a little introduction about your organisation and then take us through how you've managed the digital action planning for your schools.
Brilliant, thank you. So my name is Gulev. I'm from Connect Educational Trust. I'm a director for IT for the trust. I also have 2 roles. So I also do consultancy work for schools around the borough as well. But Connect Education Trust is a multi-academy trust, which we have 3,486 pupils and 7 schools, and that number has probably got up with staffing, but it's 571 staffing that we have. So my role here really is to be able to make sure all our schools are working together, collaborating together, and to be able to kind of support them where there's the need as well. But a lot of it was when I came in, probably about 2 So I've got just a little bit of a background about myself as well. So I basically got over 20 years of experience. So I've gone from teacher to senior leadership role to doing consultancy work as well. So I'm still quite hands-on in the classroom, trying a lot of these things as well, new technology coming through. But for me, as a kind of a director in this position, I was looking at a strategy plan for Connect Educational Trusts. And what I really wanted to do is bring the trust really all together and to be able to understand where everybody was within the trust. So I came up, I had four key essentials, 4 ingredients I was really looking for, is to make sure that our devices work anywhere, wherever we are, in our schools, if they're at home, for all our schools to be able to have this access. So wherever they are, if children are at home or at school using them, that they can use. Every child in our trust has got a one-to-one device. So they've all got a Chromebook. So for me, it was really key to make sure that we're using these devices effectively, and at the same time, teachers are getting the CPD around it as well. So these were my 4 priorities I was looking for. Anywhere, any device for all stakeholders, engaging, empowering learning through technology. So, making sure teaching and learning is the forefront, and then obviously technology, what technology is there to support this learning in class. And also at the same time thinking about all our stakeholders, but how can we get parents really involved? Because we're sending devices at home. Every child's got their own device. How can we bring them on board with us as well? And at the same time, to make it creative, innovated, was a key for me to be able to have that and see that engagement in class as well. So this is where I started off. I set basically with these kind of 4 principles, 4 essentials I really wanted to kind of work on. And at that point, as a trust, I was looking to see what can help me bring all this together. And I was very lucky at this time to be able to look, and I found the Digital School Awards here in England, because we haven't got anything like this. So for us, it was really exciting when I saw this. And I looked at the stages there, and the stages were I kind of broke this down to stages where we wanted to look at. So we wanted to evaluate, we wanted to review, and we wanted to develop, and we wanted to measure the impact. So throughout this whole process, impact for us was key. Because we wanted to make sure that these devices we've got in school are making an impact as well. So we went through the process of looking, when we looked at the SELFIE report, before even starting the process, for us it was basically for us it was really identifying what is the SELFIE report, what is it going to be able to give to us. And I kind of broke it into 3 steps here, 3 kind of learning process here. It's going to allow me to identify, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more, implement and reflect. So the SELFIE report for me was really key, because for all 7 schools, it was going to give me something, because not every school is the same. There's certain things that I wanted to do as principals, to be able to bring approaches that we can work together, because at the time when I joined, everyone was doing a little bit of their own. So I wanted to bring in things together, because there was a lot of repeat in schools. There was a lot of people doing one thing and someone was creating something else, and I wanted to bring that collaboration. So I call this the kind of the learning process, where I felt that the SELFIE was going to allow us to do this process. So I'm going to take you onto the journey, hopefully, with this process. Please ask any questions in the chat. I know I can answer at the end. But we started with the identifying. For us was really to identify who was going to be part of the SELFIE report. So it was broken down. The SELFIE report is very clearly, if some of you are on that stage where you've seen, it's broken down into 5 areas. So there's lots of different stakeholders here that's going to be involved with this. It's not just for one person to be responsible for this and to kind of lead it. Very quickly, I knew that I might be there to kind of drive it, but there's going to have to be different groups taking part in this for it to be very successful, and for us to be able to get the outcome that we're looking for, to be able to get something that we are then going to be able to move forward with. So we very clearly at that point as leadership from our trust point, so this is with the CEO, we spoke about how we were going to break this down and how we were going to get everybody involved. At that time, I had the leaders, I had the computing leads and the deputy head teachers involved to be able to present this to them. So I presented to them what the process was, the process was going to go through, and how they can implement this in their schools as well. So there was teams of people that we were starting to build up to be able to kind of communicate and to be able to lead. Very quickly, we knew that to bring in a senior leader here was very important. It was very important to have a senior leadership from each school to be able to drive this as well. So it weren't just anyone kind of stand alone, because it was a very much of a leadership drive to be able to kind of do this as a whole school. So there was two aspects what we were trying to do: a whole school approach, but at the same time we were trying to keep our trust together to know exactly what all the schools were doing. So we had our leadership, so we had a group for leadership, we had our pupils, so we introduced digital leaders in each school, where they actually all met together and all worked together as 7 schools, staff, and for us as well was parents, because one of my strategies right from the beginning, you would see that parents were involved with that as well. So we then set the selfie report, the questionnaire, to all different stakeholders here, including parents as well. So we did bring parents into this to get their views, because we were having these one-to-one devices, and we wanted to make sure parents were having the training for it as well and had enough knowledge there. So we went through all the stakeholders to be able to get our findings at this point. We identified the questions through a whole team, so all of us sat down, so all the schools can have the same question. So when we're analysing it, especially in my role, was to be able to identify what is the pattern for all our 7 schools as well. So even though the schools were looking at their gaps, I was looking at it as a kind of a trust level. What is all 7 school uniform and having, what is it that we're identifying that we all can work on together? From the selfie report, so it was mentioned before, I won't go into the report, but you'll see how the report is really broken down, and we then started really identifying what are the particular gaps, very much for the trust or 7 schools, and then individual schools as well. So we were really looking into analysing what are pupils saying, what are our parents saying, what's leadership saying, and what our teachers are saying in here. And the report, I would say, is very useful. It's a report that now that even we have gone through this process, it's a report that I'm reusing again, so it won't stop there. The selfie report will be something it'll be an ongoing, because you can keep on kind of going back and doing these questions again to make sure that you are narrowing that gap. We identified, so each school had identified what their particular areas were, but what the trust had for all 7 schools, which was a particular kind of focus, was assessment and infrastructure. So very quickly, I looked at all 7 reports and identified very quickly where are the gaps and where we can then kind of be able to move and to kind of plan an action plan. So at this stage, it's still really identifying. It was looking at what the gaps were. It was talking to the different groups to be able to kind of pull out from that report, what is it that we need to kind of look at. When we did this, we actually looked at, and this might be something helpful if you are kind of looking at this as very much as the 5 kind of areas. We looked at it in 2 areas. So we had basically the educational thinking and the operational, because we had very much of the teaching and learning here we had to think about, but the operational thinking was more of the infrastructure that needed to be placed. So you kind of need both 2 things together to be able to kind of obviously works. And this could particularly be 2 different groups, because you might have your kind of educational group, but you've got the operational group as well, which is might be your technicians, for example. It might be your coordinators there that you have in your schools as well. So these are different groups, again, different people that you need to kind of be able to work with to be able to kind of get a lot of this information. Like I said right at the beginning, it's something that it's for whole schools approach, not only one person's responsible for this. So we went through this process. So this was a kind of a pre-action plan. So before we even considered doing our action plan, this is the process we went through. We went through identifying the gaps. We had lots of discussion around that, and then we created teams. So we created teams of groups, like the operational team and the educational team here, to be able to this from our selfie. So one person was taking this responsibility, it was different groups, and this is where you then can be able to talk to different groups about different things and different action plans as well. We very quickly knew that we needed we're going to need some coaching, we're going to need some support and some organising in our trust as well. So at that point, this was where we were kind of looking at where the gaps are and who and how we were going to get this type of support to be able to kind of help our schools as well. And then we moved on to looking at the action plan, and again, teams questioning and asking questions to deeper having an understanding of the action plans. These I won't go through these, but these are stages of kind of questions we kept on asking ourselves throughout the process before even implementing the action plan. So we kept on asking questions. What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? What do we need to work on? What are the targets here? You know, what's a set goal? What kind of goals are we going to think about? So these groups, so the educational and the operational, 2 different groups, were really thinking about this, and we were kind of really mind mapping, you know, all our thoughts down at the start of this. Before we put anything down, we kind of asked these kind of questions for us within a group that we met up as well. And then once we did all of these discussions and we had our group set up, this is the point that we then started thinking about how we're going to move on to creating our action plans through the process. So we had basically a trust action plan that I worked on, and then schools broke that down really to implement in their schools as action plans as well. I'm going to just kind of show you an example and take you through an action plan. So you can see here I've got an educational action plan and an operational action plan. So I hope this is going to work. Please tell me, can everyone see that? Is everyone okay? Kind of.
Yeah, that's opening up, Gulev.
That's opening up. Brilliant. Okay. So what we had here is an action plan. What we did here, which might be something you're doing at the moment, we didn't have a separate action plan for digital, a digital kind of action plan just on its own. We brought this into our educational action plan because it doesn't sit standalone. It had to feed in to the bigger kind of discussions that we're having as leaders in our school of how it's going to fit in your school. So this is something that we found really useful, that it's not standalone, it's not something on its own, it has to be embedded within your actual educational educational action plan itself. So you can see here very clearly some of the actions that we are kind of putting in there. But the key thing, I won't go through the action plans here, but how we broke the action plan is, again, we use G Suite as our platform that we kind of use, and that's across all our 7 schools. And again, the reason we did this was to be able to work all together. So a lot of the things that we learned from our action plan that we've done, which now we've implemented, which I'll touch base on that, is through looking at our SELFIE report. So looking at all of the SELFIE report and the pre-discussions, the kind of the mind map thinking as well, is now it's the type where we implement our action plan. So we looked at our targets. We really broke down the priorities into small targets. And again, I would really say, don't aim too big here. Really break those down, make them achievable for your schools. You know your schools better than anyone else. You know what priorities your schools have all got and how many things you possibly can be working on. So again, there's a lot of kind of thinking about bringing it down, but integrating a lot of the priorities as well. We looked at actions to be taken. So again, bringing down the actions to be taken, really break those actions down about how you will be taking those actions and really break those steps down. And again, who's responsible for this is so key, because it might not just be one person here. And, you know, who is going to be monitoring this will be happening, and when will it be happening? What are the resources needed? Is it CPD that you're going to need? Is it outside agencies you're going to need? Or is there groups within your community at the moment that you're working together on the Digital School Award that you can share some of the criteria that you might be working on as well? And then success criteria, it all feeds through. Now, this document for us is a live document. It gets updated ongoing. It's not a document you create and then forget about it. It's a document that will help you through the process. It's a document you can put evidence in there to show your success as well. So you could put in links here. So I'll just drop down and I'll show you some of the links here. But you could bring in links in here where you can put in where you're actually, sorry, I'm just probably going too fast there, but you can bring in links here to show where your success is as well and how you're measuring those impact. Then what we do is rank it. So we basically say you might have not started it, you might have stated but it hasn't completed, or you've completed that action. So the document stays really live all the time. So you can put your notes in there, you can say when it's completed or if you're working towards it. And then we gave access to all groups here to be able to see where we are, because everyone was taking properly a different target, and then everyone was sharing the one document that was kept live and people could add to it as well. And you could clearly see here what was ongoing, what we were bringing in as well. Some things we added to it as we were going along as well. If we just kind of flick back, and then the same was with the operational action plan, which is not going to work. Okay. Just let's see if I've got the operational. Here we are. It's the same with the operational update as well. So again, with the infrastructure group, they had exactly the same kind of idea. Again, targets, small action, who's going to lead it, when is it being completed, or is it ongoing, or is it not stated just yet? So the action plans constantly stay live. You can put notes in it. You can you can kind of be able to kind of tell people where you are in the process as well, because again, it's that whole kind of working together, not one person's kind of responsibility. And I would recommend using any of you, if you use Microsoft, for example, or if you're using Google Workspace or any other platform, that you're sharing these documents so you don't have lots of these documents floating around and not sure which ones are you using. So coming back, sorry, just coming back to that. So for us, the action plan, again, was a process of a lot of teams talking and breaking down those actions, those small targets, and how everything was going to be met. My role at that point was to take a lot of these individual schools action plans and then look at it as a kind of a trust level. How can we then, as a trust, support these schools in kind of looking at their actions? Is it CPD, for example? Is it that we need to be, might need to do training all together, or sharing some of our practice? Because in one school we might have someone specialise in that's doing lots of information. How can they basically be able to give that kind of information to move that school on, and that support approach as well? And then moving on to the action and reflecting, really, which is quite key. So once you've obviously done your the action plan, you need to consider, how are you going to, what is the best model for you to be able to kind of reflect on your actions? How are you going to evidence this, and how are you going to use this evidence then to be able to move on? So again, for us, it was again that kind of constant talking with the groups, and having those conversations, reviewing it, assessing it ongoingly, of how is it going, what do we need to be doing, how are we analysing this data, do we need a little bit more data to give us a little bit more information, what do we need to do? And bringing that cycle again back to making sure we're not forgetting where the gap was and how we're analysing that information, which all feeds again through the action plan, because it sits in your success criteria there. Here at this point, we're looking at what's the best way how we can reflect, and how we can basically be able to support each other to keep our evidence. And for everyone within our 7 schools that are kind of taking that journey as well, still is some things were overlapping and people already had. So looking at policies, why should we create another policy if someone else has done it? Why, if strategies work really well, why doesn't that school support it? So again, we brought back to the SELFIE report, what was it telling us? What were these 5 key areas? And we made a digital portfolio just by using slides, and we shared this with everybody. Can everyone see that okay? I might just share it because it's in slides. So I created this for everybody to take through and to put their evidence in. Again, you could do it through videos, you could do it through captions, quotes from the pupils, from all the different stakeholders there. But we basically went through all of the areas. So let's say leadership, for example, this was the overall what we were trying to achieve. And if you click on these schools, they'll be able to it will take you through to, we'll just go through this one. It will take you to their evidence, and everybody could see this. So if you are kind of more or less working as a community, or you might have a group that you're kind of working on this together, even if it's not a trust, but it's a school that you might have, it might be a nice idea that you can share again some of these areas. So we basically shared this, and this was a school that looked at the infrastructure, and these were some of their evidence in what they were doing and capturing, for example as well. And it was again all linked into one kind of area, so anyone can go and say, oh, this is really good that they're doing, what can we do as well? And as a trust from a trust level, we then started moving things together and thinking, okay, well, a lot of schools are looking at security and monitoring, for example. What can we do as a trust to be able to bring this together? So then we looked at monitoring, and we looked at basically 2 factors. So we brought everybody kind of the USB type of keys that they can have, which basically gives you the 2 factors. So we then started doing things jointly to be able to bring a lot of these kind of criteria together. We looked at the infrastructure of schools. We did audits for schools as well, because we felt like we needed a bit of an audit, what schools were doing. So we were able to look at their action plans and to be able to bring it together where we can support the schools as well. Just bringing it slightly down, just looking at time. So, and again, some of the work that kind of came out from it really made us look at, and we've now got impact stories. So we started measuring basically some of these resources that children were using in teaching and learning, if it's in history, if it's in maths. We looked at virtual reality And there's nice now case studies that we've got. So we've got some stories. We looked at, they've done vision. What was the vision for it? What was before the project, after the project? What pupils had said about it? What teachers said about it? What were the key factors here? And again, throughout this whole process, it's so key that you get the children in there, the pupils' voice, the parents' voice, the teacher's voice, the leadership voice, to be able to draw a lot of this together. So this was kind of a very simple example with videos and what children got out from it as well. And again, this brought all of the kind of the impact stories. And again, this went back to our action plan. And again, this fed back to the action plan about the success criteria. What have we achieved? And now we're on a journey at the moment that we're kind of re-looking at this. We will be doing the SELFIE report again to capture some of the things that we have worked on. So hopefully we will see, again, there's a change, and then look at different priorities to be able to kind of continue with this. But as a trust, it's made us think a lot, and it's made us move forward from our action plans, made us really think about action plans and not just having an action plan because it's the right thing to have and it's a document we must do, but to make that document a live document, to be able to really measure what we're doing. And now we're on our next stage, where we're doing some research around using technology within the teaching and learning being in the heart of it. So it's like pet tech that we're looking at, and again bringing everybody on board with that, and our pupils as well. I think that brings me, that brings me to my last slide there. So hopefully that's kind of given you a bit of a example of our journey, and we didn't go straight into creating the action plan. There was a process we went through as well. A lot of kind of discussion, a lot of group discussion before we did the SELFIE report. How long are we going to give to schools as well before we continued? But thank you, and I'm up for any questions.
Thank you so much, Gulev. If there are any questions, just raise your hand. And I just want to, Gulev mentioned there the impact piece, and I know that it is the part of the puzzle, exactly what is the impact of the technology in teaching and learning. And Gulev's Trust is working with an author. She's also runs her own business, One Life Learning. Her name is Dr. Fiona Aubrey-Smith, and she has recently written a book, From Ed Tech to Ped Tech, and it might be of interest to others who are just interested in looking at, impact analysis and how you can look at learning outcomes from using technology, and how you can go through that assessment piece. Well, I know we have run out of time. I'm sure, Gulev, if anybody would like to get in touch with you, if there's anybody who would like more information, your particular approach, obviously, from working with, across a number of different schools, this could be something that could be of interest to some of the education training boards or the local authorities in Scotland. So I'm sure you would be happy for us to share your details. If anybody does want to contact Gulev, just get in touch with us and we'll make a connection for you. Well, I'm just going to wrap up just to say that we've had a phenomenal response to our campaign in Ireland. So now we have over 200 schools that are signed up to the programme. And whilst some of those schools may have just come in recently, I hope that today's session will have been of interest and relevant. We have shared at the beginning of the year in September, for those who were able to join us in the introduction session, that there is approximately sort of 5 steps to the programme. And I hope from what Terence and Gulev have shared today is that all of the work that will be done as part of the awards programme is very much intrinsic and important and beneficial to the overall digital action planning in the school, in terms of what you're doing, in terms of teaching and learning. So there's nothing really there year, I feel that, you know, that is in addition to what you're already doing in the school. And what we try to do as part of the program is to give you a roadmap, to give you milestones, and then obviously to give you the benefit of the good practice of other schools that have been through the program, and to share that with you as part of these webinars and as part of the work that we've done. I did put into the chat if there are any schools that would like to have access to the Academy, which is the platform where schools, mentor schools, are sharing examples of their good practice. Just get in touch with Kate or Aoife, and we'd be delighted to give you a login for that. And that will continuously be updated as schools are awarded. We do ask them to share good practice, and we include that in the repository. So over the next number of years, that obviously will be built out. But from where Gulev and Terence have left us off today, we, you know, it is about having completed the selfie, doing that audit, and developing that action plan. So the next step is the big piece of work, which is all around the development and implementation in schools. So our next webinars, which will be following on in 2 weeks' time, and we'll be sort of completing in around the March timeframe, will be all around the different selfie areas that you will have audited your school on. Some schools will be reviewing and developing in all areas, and then some schools will actually be picking a particular area that they want to focus on this year. So you can drop in and out in terms of the webinars, but our next one coming up is on the 22nd of November, and we're delighted to have Presentation Secondary School in Waterford and St. Joseph's Secondary School in Rush. Darren Byrne and Catherine O'Sullivan will be presenting and talking about their stories, and I think it's going to be a really good session. So I hope you can come back to us and join us for that session. So with that, thank you so much. Cornelius, I think you have one last question if you'd
No,
like
that was
to,
earlier.
yeah.
No. Thank you. No, thank
Oh,
you.
that was earlier. Perfect. Well, look,